Welcome in, brand new Friday Scramble, June 3rd, 2022. I'm Rick Gehman, that right there, Andy Lack. Andy, first show of June, dude. I cannot believe that.
Yeah. The golf calendar, I feel like my schedule is based around the golf calendar, right? I that's how I kind of conceptualize how the year is going. And I can't believe that we're going to be starting to talk US Open and whenever, maybe even today.
Yeah, honestly, I've already started looking ahead to it. Sorry, RBC Canadian, which is always the tough place to be when everyone is hey, it's a great tournament. They're gonna have a great field, but oh man, just can we get this over with? Can we get this over with? Can we get to Brookline? That's gonna be the vibe, I have a feeling.
Right. And it's a good field actually, which is kind of what we got at Byron Nelson. I don't think they released the official field later this afternoon, but they have done the early commitments on their Twitter page, and it seems like more players are starting to do the JT thing. There were other players way before JT that did this, but the idea of playing a tournament before a major, I feel like, is becoming more prevalent.
JT is going to play 6 out of 7 weeks because this is his only week off.
Yeah.
He's playing Canadian Open.
Riley may never take a week off.
Well, why would you? Why would you when you're just piloting? I would never take a week off either. I have this, I don't even know if it's a hot take, but I feel like, so we've seen so many optimizations and improvements in the last couple of decades in athletes and in golf. I'm waiting for the guy who optimizes recovery and rest and travel to the point where he just plays every single week.
Yeah, kind of like what LeBron has done, the durability that we've seen out of LeBron in basketball.
Right.
Who do you think the best candidate for that is? Who do you think the best guy in their 20s or 30s now that is going to the best candidate to say win a major at 48?
Oh, interesting. So probably I could see Colin Morikawa winning majors in decades.
Right. I think that's a good answer. Yeah, because you have to think about you have to think about skill set and injury history and kind of how they swing, right? And I think Morikawa has a very repeatable motion. I don't think it's a swing that puts a lot of strain on his body. It doesn't really seem like he gets injured a ton, and his main skill set should age well.
I agree. Muirfield Village is it playing a little easier than you anticipated, or at least on Thursday? The afternoon got a lot more difficult during the opening round, but are these scores a little bit lower than you thought, or are we right on pace?
I think we're right on pace. I think this afternoon too will be a little bit tougher. Remember, we got some rainfall on Wednesday. So Thursday morning was really good conditions. You can already see the course starting to bake out a little bit, and the wind always kicks up in the afternoon. You've got all that foot traffic on the greens too. So I think it's going to be, we've got the leaders at 7 under right now, which was, I think, what the 36-hole leader was at the PGA Championship, right? So I think it is. No, I think it's right on schedule. Do you think it's playing, or is it playing a little differently than you expected?
No, I think the wet, softer conditions on Thursday definitely allowed for scoring, but there was let's see here, there was nearly a shot difference from the morning to the afternoon yesterday. So it definitely
it's 0.8. Yeah.
Quickly. Davis Riley, Denny McCarthy tied atop the leaderboard at 7 under. Davis Riley and Cam Young are just stapled to the top of every single leaderboard.
I don't know how to evaluate these guys. I was excited to fade them this week in terms of this is just a bad scheduling spot. You're buying really high. You're buying these guys at the top of the market. and at high ownership. And in DraftKings, that's like what I love doing. I love like utilizing public perception on a player and price increase and ownership to fade. I like they keep playing great, right? So it's hard to figure out what to do. And I think it kind of goes back to this one thing that I keep telling myself, but don't do the best job of integrating always into my DFS strategy and betting cards, where I think this was a Kevin Kisner quote, but he got asked for some tournament, he got asked like, hey, do you mentor any of the newer guys? And he goes, mentor? What are you talking about? These guys are more ready and prepared than they've ever been. In fact, they should be mentoring me because they are fearless out there. They're and once you're out here for years, your attitude kind of gets hardened and you build up this scar tissue. And these guys just go out and play. So cannot say enough about how impressed I am out of Riley and Young so far.
Those two, along with Mito Pereira, guys like that are why when I play one and done, I just don't save anybody. I just empty the clip immediately because these guys are going to pop up. Every year, there's 2 or 3 or 4 guys that you're going to feel comfortable playing later in the season that you did not really know existed January 1st, or they were on the Corn Ferry or whatever it is, which is why I kind of just have abandoned the idea of saving stars and easing my way into the season because it doesn't feel like there's a need for that.
Right. 100%. Yeah, that's very well said. I feel the same way, unless you're like me and you pick players that get disqualified.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, this is best rookie class, it feels like, in a while, right? Were Hovland and Morikawa in the same class?
Yeah, Hovland, Morikawa, Wolf, we're all this.
Okay.
But okay, so it's funny because we had that conversation like 2 years ago. I think we did it on the first cut where it was, is this going to be a historic class? Are we going to look back at this in 10 years and say, holy crap, look at the guy? Because remember, they were all inside the top 15 of the world ranking within 18 months of being professionals, maybe sooner than that, maybe 12 months of being professionals. And we were thinking, wow, this might be a historic class. I'm not so sure anymore. I think we are going to just get stud classes all the time.
Yeah, unless they all go to live. But yeah, I agree with you. Who's your rookie of the year at this point right now? It's got to be Young, right?
Has to be Young. Yeah, he's just piled up so many top threes. They've been at I care about what types of courses they come at.
Yeah.
If Riley were to win this, that would probably swing it in his favor because he's now got a playoff loss to Sam Burns. He'd have a win at the Memorial, which is an elevated status invitational event. He'd have a bunch of other, kind of top 12s, including one at the PGA Championship. So Riley he could swing it for sure, but right now it's Cam Young.
Poor Chad Ramey. He's the only guy who's won. He's not even a part of the conversation.
Not even close. I mean, I'd vote Mito over Chad Ramey.
Right. What happens if Chad Ramey wins like the Rocket Mortgage and he's got 2 wins? What do we do?
Yeah, he would probably win it. That would be like the old school versus like the sabermetrics conversation for like Hall of Fame voting or something like that, where it's like, oh, well, he's got 2 wins. He's got to be the rookie of the year. And you're like, well, but this guy's got 7 top 10s. 2 of them are at majors. And
it was
like 2 of the weakest field events of the year.
Right. It was like the player of the year last year with Rahm and Cantlay. Rahm had this really gaudy strokes gain number and all these top 10s and relevant finishes, but he only had that one official win. So
yes,
anyway.
Right. It's bizarre. The other thing, Rory McIlroy made eagle on number 5, and he is charging up the leaderboard, currently 1 shot off the lead. I want no other outcome than Rory winning this week because we'd get just like, it'd be great for content. It'd be great for all that stuff. I bet him. I would move into a great position in that big one and done, the fantasy golf championships. I would be like in the mix. Like I need Rory McIlroy to win this golf tournament.
How about that shot into the par 5? I mean, the one that he had 6 feet for eagle. This is a shot of the tournament so far.
The other one that he hit into the other 5, into 15, was like a half an inch away from being a kick-in eagle, and it got caught up on the slope right there where everything funnels down. Like and actually he's had a couple of sloppy bogeys. This could have been a really, really low one for Rory.
Right. If he wins this week, does that change how you feel about him for the US Open?
I don't even know how I feel about him for the US Open in general.
Right.
So you've probably done more Brookline research than I have, but it seems like it's going to be a very stern test. It seems like you're going to have to drive it well, and these greens are very, very small. What I love about Rory this week, and I suppose this would also count for the US Open, he is literally in the best around the green season of his career. And he's one of the top players recently, which when you add not spending strokes around the green to everything else that Rory already does well, that is a really good combination.
I completely agree. I think he's got a super, super underrated short game. He's one of the best long-term bunker players in the world, actually. And this is one of the reasons why I actually ended up really liking him at Southern Hills and thought he had a really great chance to win there too. But yeah, I agree with you. I think I always like asking you this once we start getting up to it, but has he, like, to you, if he continues to play well and at the very least contends this week, has he to you like passed Jon Rahm in terms of pricing and on the odds board? Because I think we could both agree, especially coming after Colonial, like Scheffler, you got to kind of have him as the deserving favorite for majors at this point. But has that next guy for a while has always been Rahm, or Rahm has been first for a while too. Does Rory kind of enter that tier for you?
I've always been a believer that when everyone's at their best, Rory's the best.
Right.
Which is, I think is kind of how I'd answer that. So I would say yes. If Rory finishes inside the top 5 and Jon Rahm finishes, whatever, T45 or something, wherever he's trending, even inside the top 25.
Yeah.
Like, Rory's been on a great run. Rory's been awesome. And Rahm hasn't been bad, but like, you got to start splitting hairs at some point.
100%. I agree with you. Rory has been awesome. And I mean, even this week, they were kind of neck and neck on the odds boards. Like, what was the best number you were able to find on Rory? Like 14?
12 was like, I think the consensus. I think I got 14.
Right.
Here, but Circa's always got longer lines. That's not even fair. But like, I think like 12 was like the consensus you probably got on Rory, and Rahm was 11, something like that in most places.
Yeah. I feel pretty good about our Patrick Reed bet, right? I mean, it looked like he was struggling there on day 1, but he's made a nice little comeback.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the board is, I like the way this board is shaping up. Hopefully it, obviously too much golf left to be played for my taste. I've seen this go sideways. I want to get to the props here quickly, Andy, because there are some that tee off in 21 minutes. There's some that tee off in 33 minutes. There's some that tee off in 45 minutes. So we are going to have to move quickly here. So what we're going to do on the other side, we are going to go through a little bit of strategy for PrizePicks and talk through the props board. The code to get yourself a deposit bonus for that is Rick. There's a link in the description. You can sign up, get your bonus, and hopefully find some victories. So we'll hit that right after a quick break.
Andy Lack is not only the co-host of The Scramble, but also produces his own show, the Inside Golf Podcast. It's available twice a week, focusing on course breakdowns, DFS, and betting strategies for every PGA Tour event. Admittedly, I was drawn to Andy for his data-driven approach, which you'll find on his Sunday shows as he breaks down the field. But I'm even more impressed by his passion for course architecture, which offers a different perspective of our great game. Mix those together with insightful and humorous guests who don't take themselves too seriously, and you've got a recipe for a great podcast. Follow Inside Golf Pod on Twitter and download Inside Golf wherever you download podcasts.
Okay, Andy, let's prop it like it's hot here. Here is the PrizePicks board for today. And we spent a lot of time earlier this week trying to figure out these birdie or better matchups and whether they were a trap or not. I will say 3 of the top 5 differences between golfers, they did win. So 3 out of 5 on the right side, so I wouldn't call it a trap, but I wouldn't call it not a trap.
Right. Didn't we were bemoaning why Riley was matched up with John Rahm and Riley ended up winning that. Right. I think the only thing that I would say about these matchups is, keep in mind that and this is the way that I approach regular matchups too, in terms of just betting, keep in mind for single round for 18 holes of golf, there's so much variance involved. Right. That generally, in terms of a single round matchup, I generally lean towards the underdog. Now, in PrizePicks, they're not giving you an underdog, right? They're just giving you 2 guys head to head straight up, but I think a lot of things can happen in just 18 holes. So that's kind of why they maybe feel like there's a little bit less risk involved for them. They're not saying here's 72 holes of golf between John Rahm and Davis Riley. It's a shorter term thing. So that's kind of the only thing where I think they're hedging their bets a little bit, if that makes sense.
How much would you look at what happened yesterday? Cam Smith made a ton of birdies or better yesterday. I think 7 of them. Jordan Spieth led the field or was near the top of the field in strokes gained putting, made 4 birdies. How much is round 1 influencing what you do in round 2 for birdie or better matchups? Or would you just continue to look at kind of those longer term birdie rates?
I definitely want to factor in what they did in round 1, right? If somebody hit the ball really well in round 1, I think that matters, right? I think you want to look at in tournament regression, but I think the mistake a lot of people make in round to round matchups and live betting is they don't factor in long-term baseline into what somebody did in a single round. So for example, Luke List putted terribly in round 1. I don't actually know if he did. This is just a, broader example. Of course, his putter is going to come back. No, he actually putted exactly to his baseline in round 1. So I kind of do a mix of both, if that makes sense.
Okay, fair enough. And then Armina, do we have that graphic for the stuff from yesterday's round? There we go. Okay, so yesterday, as mentioned, did get more difficult in the afternoon. The afternoon wave played a stroke over par. Right now, we're about a half a stroke over par. So we are kind of trending potentially, if we get kind of the same outcomes as yesterday, to be a little bit more difficult in round 2 than round 1. Average fairways for round 1 was 9.1. Average greens in regulation was 10.35. Let's start with the fairways here, Andy. So average fairways, 9.1. I'm going to steal the screen back here, Armina. Thank you very much. Thank you. You can see most of them are hovering in that 9.5, maybe 10.5. Yesterday, Answer hit 13 fairways. Morikawa hit 11. Cantlay hit 10. How about Cam Smith scoring like he did, hitting 7 fairways yesterday?
Unbelievable, right? And I think that was a concern with Cam Smith too, where it was he's going to get himself in trouble off the tee. O'Reilly just made bogey to get back to 6. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a guy in Cam Smith that won the Players Championship losing 5 strokes off the tee, right? Yeah. So he figures out a way. He's one of those guys like Kuchar yesterday, I think hit 6 or 7 greens in regulation and shot 2 under or something like that. So yeah, I think as the fairways firm up a little bit, Rick, in the afternoon, I would probably lean towards the unders. What about you?
Yes, I would lean towards the under. And the Cam Smith one is actually kind of exciting, right? Because I like, the under on that. So if we think it's going to play harder, if we think it's going to get harder to hit fairways, this is a guy who has proven he doesn't need to, nor maybe can he, hit a ton of fairways. And I think that's a good thing, right? Like he's not reliant on that to shoot a score. He could have a great score and miss a ton of fairways. He could have a bad score and miss a ton of fairways. They're not tied together, which I actually think is a good thing if you want the underside of it. Greens in regulation, as you mentioned. So there are a couple out here. Like Adam Scott hit, I think he ended up hitting 7 yesterday, but I think he hit his last 2 or 3 to pad those stats a little bit. Joaquin Niemann hit 13 yesterday. His line right now is 11.5. Hoagie hit 12. His line right now is 11.5. These feel a little bit closer to fair to me.
I just looking at it here, I would probably lean towards doing more fairway stuff than green stuff. I agree with you, especially because, all of the guys with looking through all the guys that they give us for greens in regulation, all of them, at least long-term, are pretty good iron players, right? I'm not seeing anybody that is like a clear guy to pick on in terms of iron play. I guess the best guy for that would probably be Horschel. Yeah. Horschel's probably like the worst, and kind of Adam Scott's been super volatile. But I don't want to take Cam Smith has turned into an absolutely elite iron player in the past 3 months. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's gained over 9 strokes on approach in both majors this year, right? So it kind of looking at these guys, even Spieth is hitting his irons great right now. So I would probably have a more difficult time finding guys to pick on in terms of greens and regulation than I would fairways.
Okay. And just as we are talking, we are already seeing that scoring average start to rise. So when I updated the outline earlier, and what you saw on this graphic was a half a stroke over par, we're now 0.8 of a stroke over. So we are seeing that kind of similar afternoon trend continue. So if there are a couple of low strokes that you like, we think that the course appears to be getting more difficult as it did yesterday, which is always good.
Yeah. I think Rory's got another eagle putt though.
For the love of
God.
God.
Or an easy chip. Yeah.
It's just maybe just off the green.
On the fringe. Yeah.
Yes, but let's go, Rory. Okay, so that big fantasy golf championships one and done. If depending on the outcome, if Rory wins, and depending on how other guys do, I could be in the top 5, and that's
wow,
$50,000 a first.
So I got to ask you this because I'm not doing well in that one and done. Like, what did the season have to look like for you to be in this position? Like, how many guys have you had that have won?
Okay, I'll pull it up for you. Here's what we'll do. I'll bring that up on the other side. So the code you're looking for PrizePicks is Rick. There's a link in the description. Go sign up. Take advantage of the data and the stats that we see trending in the right direction here. We'll talk about that entry. We'll talk about a bunch of other stuff right after these words.
If you're not playing daily fantasy on PrizePicks, then you're not really playing daily fantasy. They offer nothing but props, and they do it better than anyone else. You pick 2 to 5 players on an over-under and can win up to 10 times on any entry. They allow mixed sport entries, meaning you can take the over on LeBron James and the under on Jon Rahm. The golf-specific props are amazing. Birdies or better, fairways hit, greens in regulation, round score, and now, yes, single hole props. That's right. What score will a golfer make on a specific hole? I have PrizePicks specific tools on my website to help you build the best entries, and now PrizePicks is offering a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Just use the code RICK at sign up or click the link in the description. That's code RICK. Good luck.
Okay, we're back. So I got off to a very slow start, similar to what I did here. I took zeros in 3 of the first 4 weeks, and I've gotten hot recently. I have picked 2 winners. Now, they happen to be Scotty Scheffler at the Arnold Palmer, so that was $2.1 million, and Justin Thomas at the PGA Championship, which is $2.7 million.
Okay.
Outside of that, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other top 5s. So 2 wins, 5 top 5s.
Okay. Yeah. That's probably I was going to say, my guess would that you'd need one big win, whether it be the Masters or the PGA or the Players, probably one other win. And then, a couple guys in the mix. Yeah.
You gotta win the right ones. And there's still like 10 or 11 events to go. So there's a lot of golf to be played, but that ball just looked like it bounced on Rory. I don't know where he ended up. Is he close?
I think I've got the same camera angle as you. They're not even showing where it ended up
for birdie. So it really kind of sucked. Okay. I want to look at the live odds very quickly here. And just see what's going on. Let me pull this up real quick. So live in play, Rory's the favorite. Oh, that makes me happy. Plus 330, Cam Smith plus 700, Will Zalatoris 11-1, Cam Young 12-1, Davis Riley 14, Jordan Spieth 18. Those are the leaders. Let me share my screen so everybody can follow along with this. There we go. Okay. Rory McIlroy plus 330, Cam Smith 7-1. You kind of like guys that are probably done now or getting close to being done now, right?
Yes. I like Xander Schauffele at 28-1. Get in at 3. That's fine. Get in at 3. It's going to be 7, I think, this afternoon. I don't know if maybe 8, but you're then, are the 5 under guys, the Luke Less, are those guys capable of, going 2-3 under? I think so. But this isn't a course where you're seeing a lot of 5 unders out there. So suddenly you're starting to ask the guys at 4 and 3, are they going to shoot 4 or 5 under? So if you're in the clubhouse at 3, where's Sung Jae, by the way?
Yeah, Sung Jae 35.
Oh, that's crazy. I would say Sung Jae over Xander, actually. Sung Jae at 35 is the best bet. He's at I'm not just saying this because these were my guys pre-tournament, but he is playing. He's in the fairway at 17, and then he's got one more hole to play, which is a tough hole, but he's at 4 under par and he's 35-1. I bet him pre-tournament at Rory missed, by the way, unfortunately.
That's just brutal. That's the easiest hole off course too.
Yeah. I think Sung Jae and Xander are the guys you want. What about you? Aaron Wise too is interesting.
The Sung Jae one's interesting because as things continue to get harder on the weekend, I trust Sung Jae in those conditions, right? Like we've seen him win Honda in really tough conditions. He's actually left a couple out there. Like he bogeyed 15, which is the par 5 that you kind of have to take advantage of. He's playing the 5s at 1 over today. Like that, like he's left a lot out there. There's some juice to squeeze out of this, which is, I think, always something to look at. It's not like he's had his ceiling 2 rounds and he's a couple of shots off the lead. I think he's playing better than his score indicates. So 35-1 for a guy who's got 2 wins on tour, has proven it in tough conditions. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I think so. I mean, Rahm just made a long birdie putt.
He's now 2 under.
He's at 2 under. Okay. So yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm probably on the same page. I like Sung Jae the most, Xander, Hovland at 80. Have you watched a lot of Hovland this week? I've been tracking him closer because I bet him too. He's a wild one, man. He's a roller coaster. I mean, he'll get you. He is a lightning rod. And that's kind of why I had some interest in him at a big number, because he's made a ton of birdies this week, Rick. It's just about cleaning up the bad ones,
which is generally easier for some of the top players to do than to just start making a bunch more birdies. Man, I like this Rory McIlroy round. He's probably going to shoot like a 68. Hopefully he just gets in at 68. It could have been a 62, dude. He left not a 62, like a 64. He's left so many shots out there, that's the thing with Rory. I feel like every time he plays, it's the worst round he could have shot. Like he's that good, right? It's never the best round he could have got out of it. It's always the worst he got out of it, because you always are like, holy crap, that could have been 3 shots better.
I also really like, Rick, that he is going into the weekend as probably like the guy, because I think the thing that the running joke with Rory at this point is like he's going to play his best golf when he's no longer relevant in the tournament. And so I'm excited to see how he does in a big tournament as probably like the favorite or one of the favorites heading into the weekend.
Denny McCarthy out front in the clubhouse, 7 under par, a couple guys trying to track him down, and then we'll see what the afternoon wave does. Andy, I got a couple more things I need to talk to you about, but I need to hit a quick break real quick.
I've recently started using Juice Reel as a way to track all my bets in real time. Since I can sync the app to all my sports books, I don't miss any wager, and I've learned a ton more about my betting habits. There are built-in line shopping features, so I know that I'm always getting the best lines available, and once the game starts, I can see the value of my bets fluctuate in real time with the scoring so that I always have an understanding of my expected value. The performance analytics have made me much more knowledgeable about the bets that I have the most success at, hint, top 10s, and there's no going back for me. Download the Juice Reel app with the link in the description.
The yearly disappointment of losing the Masters raffle is now live.
Yeah. Did you put in for that?
Of course. Yeah. Just like I'll just get an email in 6 weeks that says, "Whoops, sorry." I've never
done it.
Have I ever what?
I've never done it before.
Why? What's wrong with
I don't know. I just haven't I didn't know it was a thing, really, to be honest with you. I didn't know that, like, how many, so what is the parameters? Like, how many people get it?
I actually read that you have like a better chance of winning like the actual lottery than winning this lottery. There are not many passes available, and everybody puts in, and also, people like try to game the system. They try to do it better where like, I don't think you're supposed to put everybody in your household in, but people do. So it's very, very hard to get. But what you can do, so I'm opening it up right now. Generally in the past, what you do is you choose which day and the number of passes. And you can choose like 4 passes for the practice rounds and 2 passes for each of the actual tournament rounds. And they somehow raffle them off through a lottery system. But from my understanding, it's like I don't even know if I've known anyone who's ever won it.
Right. Well, I mean, I saw you just got you probably have a better chance. You could probably go based on credentials, right? At this point, more so than winning the lottery, I would say. I mean, I saw you for US Open. Good to know.
It is easier to get into media, build up your reputation, hook on with a network, and get to a major championship that way than it is to like win the Masters thing.
Right.
Like, they're taking the easier route here.
Yeah. We have somebody in the chat say that they won it the first time they ever applied. Black Cayman. Cayman? I don't know. Cayman.
Never won again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go? Tell us. I mean, because some people, because they also do like, I don't know if they want you to resell them. Like if you can't use it, they've really changed the rules and tried to keep it like, but then I see the stories of that same family sits behind 16T every year for 25 years. And it's like, well, what the hell's going on here? I don't think they're members, but like, obviously they know somebody or something.
Right. He's saying he went too, by the way.
Yeah,
no, that's on the bucket list for sure. Probably number 1 on the bucket list is get to the Masters. Can we talk about Bryson for a second?
Whew. Last I checked, he was in dead last. Is he still there?
No, my one of my favorite 6K plays, Ryan Palmer's actually in dead last, but he was last in the field in approach. I didn't get to watch a ton of his round yesterday, but I've been watching this morning. How do you feel? Because I think we both said, just give me something.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
It was
something.
Right. And listen, it's rust. We understand that it doesn't take a lot for these players. But Bryson seems like the type of player where coming off an injury, it might take a little bit longer for him to recalibrate because he's such a technical golfer
Yes.
that once you get out of sync and you're not practicing as much, it seems like it's harder to recover in a shorter period of time. So I don't know. I don't think he's playing Canadian next week too. Xander bogey, or Xander like 27 footer for bogey. He's probably going to make double.
I didn't know if you were telling me that he makes it or if he was putting for bogey.
I have no idea what happened on 9 there. But yeah, I hope no one bet him live. I hope you took the Sungjae one instead. But yeah, I don't know. Did you get to watch a lot of him this week, Rick?
Yes, and he just looked off everywhere. It was, I mean, the distance control on his approaches looked horrendous. He looked like he was coming up 15 yards short or 15 yards long. I mean, it was significantly off, but I think you're right. I mean, he's like throw a grain of sand in the motherboard and like the whole thing gets fried, right? And he's going to just have to figure it out and get his new feels and get back to all the technical stuff. I was hoping to see like some signs of life because I'm hopeful that just he's healthy again. He talked about feeling good for the first time in a long time and being able to grip the club the way that he wants to. But man, that was not a very optimistic 2 rounds that I watched.
What would you need? Like, what number would you need on him to consider him for the U.S. Open?
So I'm glad you asked that because I do not believe this is like one of the better U.S. Opens for Bryson. So,
it's not. By the way, Gil Hanse, who did Winged Foot, has alluded to in multiple interviews, what Bryson did to Winged Foot was unexpected, and he will not be able to do that here.
Yes. So when you missed by 30 yards at Winged Foot, you were in 5-inch rough. When you missed by 2 yards at Winged Foot, you were in 5-inch rough, which is why everyone playing from 5-inch rough is why Bryson shreds the field. This setup will have thick rough, but also fescue that's taller. It has these, what do they call them, Andy? Chocolate drops?
Chocolate drop mounds, yeah.
Which just adds to the randomness. And I also don't love a U.S. Open setup. Freaking Rory McIlroy is going to just cough this up for me.
I think Xander made triple, which is just delightful.
Bunker. I do not like U.S. Open setups that maybe require a little bit of creativity, right? And like if you're on the wrong side of these chocolate drops or whatever, like I think this is a terrible setup for Bryson. So I would need a pretty long number.
Okay. Yeah, well. I agree with you. That I would say probably. I mean, it's tough because he's getting put at like I think you could have gotten him this week at 100-1 this week, basically. So it's like how high do you want to go with him? I wonder what they'll do with like a DJ. I wonder if they put DJ like in the 30s or 40s, right?
How will they treat it if DJ wins the Live Golf event, which will be the favorite in, and then like is that really going to impact his odds for the U.S. Open?
That's a great question. That opens up a whole because I wonder, like, do you think we'll get shot tracker for a Live Golf event? Do you think we'll get strokes gain data for that?
I doubt we get strokes gain data. That'd be pretty interesting if we did. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's only 48 golfers, and it's only 54 holes. I don't know what they're going to have. I mean, how surprised were you that DJ's name was on the list?
I was surprised at face value, but then when I started thinking about it more, it made a lot more sense to me. The one thing that I haven't heard get talked about a ton with DJ, is that he hasn't been an elite golfer for a year and a half. Like he hasn't been playing well for a really long time. Since he won the Masters in November of 2020, the closest he's gotten to winning a tournament on the PGA Tour was the semifinals of the match play when he got waxed by Scottie Scheffler, right? So the interesting question that I have, Rick, I'm curious to get your take on this. Like, do you think if DJ was contending in majors and winning consistently on the PGA Tour, do you think he still goes?
Yes, I do.
I think so too. But I think, what I'm trying to figure out if this is part of it, because obviously the number one reason is the money, right? But you look at somebody like a Rory or a Rom, or a JT or a Spieth who aren't even really considering it, right? Those are guys that, are in their late 20s, early 30s that are still playing like top 5 players in the world, that are still competing with this younger generation, right? And DJ hasn't really done that over like a pretty large sample size now. So I wonder if part of it is DJ just being like, you know what? I'm 38 years old, right? I'm nearing a different stage of my career. Like, this makes so much more sense for me. And I don't, from everything I've heard too, I have a friend that fishes with him sometimes. Like, his priorities are different. Like, he has a very tight circle. He cares about his friends and his family. A guy like Rory and JT, like, those guys are obsessed with Tiger. They're obsessed with the history of the PGA Tour. Like, I don't think DJ cares about any of those things. And I think when he got that second Masters, maybe he was like, I'm good.
Yeah. So these high-end athletes don't think like normal humans. So I don't think if you ask DJ how his last 18 months have been, if he would be like, well, maybe I'm on the end of it. Maybe I'm on the downswing. I haven't contended. I feel like these guys, and oftentimes they are wrong, always think they're 1 week away or always think they're one shot away. So I don't think like we as media, we as spectators, we write these guys obituaries 10 years before they think they're done. Which I think is interesting. And then the other part, the obvious part, I mean, listen, I'm not like a proponent of what Liv is doing, but I imagine there are a lot of people that if you doubled their career earnings, no matter what amount that was, their salary for their career, if they doubled it and handed it to you in one day, you would turn it down, which is, if these reports are correct, about $125 million is basically what they did to Dustin Johnson.
I think that if the first tournament isn't like, I don't know, like a Fire Fest situation, isn't it like an embarrassment where people are making jokes about it on Twitter and, the live streaming. Like, I think if it can avoid this giant, public backlash in that sense, I think the field for the one in, I think, what is it, Portland?
Yeah.
Is going to be really strong. I really do.
It's only going to get stronger for sure. It's only going to get stronger for sure. And the thing that's so interesting is behind the scenes. I mean, this organization is like so disorganized. Like, everyone you talk to and everything that they try to and everything that they do, it's almost like a laughing stock behind the scenes of like how disorganized they actually are. So I do wonder what's going to happen when they actually go to put this event on. And it might just, holy crap, this is like, I mean, think about it. The PGA Tour has years of experience in what's right and what's wrong. Whether they've done a good enough job of learning from those mistakes is a completely different conversation, but they're going at this, inaugural run. It might be a little hairy at first.
I will say this, generally, rule of thumb, is, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. I think these guys are going to be a little surprised. Like, I think there's a little bit of a catch with the money. I don't know if you've read all of the stuff, but it seems like these guys, there's like certain fan packages that give all these guys like absurd fan access. Like, basically, if you could pay extra money to be like inside the ropes and get all of this access to players, I'm pretty sure they have to wear uniforms. Like, you are like, there's going to be some annoying, like, these guys own you a little bit. Like, if you're getting that much money, like, there are going to be, I'm sure some of the guys are, I'm sure it's still probably worth it when it's that much money, but there's generally a catch with this stuff that I think is going a little bit under, hasn't been talked about as much.
And I think you actually alluded to what I think is a really good point in what the PGA Tour has kind of screwed up over the last 5 decades is no one, even Rahm and Rory, those guys did not pledge their allegiance to the PGA Tour by saying, I got to play the Travelers Championship. I got to play Rocket Mortgage. I got to play whatever. Even the FedEx Cup is like, okay, it's a lot of money, yada, yada, yada. But it's about the majors. It's about the security. It's about all that other stuff as opposed to the money. I actually think what has happened with the PGA Tour, specifically around naming the tournaments and selling the rights to naming these tournaments, has created a situation where it was a short-term money grab for naming rights when they could have been building prestigious events. If you had the Las Vegas Open that never changed it, and you could present it by whatever, but like to have these events, and I know it sounds silly, but when you have an event that goes from the American Express to the Humana to the whatever they want to call it each and every year, like, you can't build prestige if no one knows what the tournament is called and no one cares what the tournament is called. Just call it the Desert Classic would be better than trying to change the naming sponsor every single year. I think they should turn down the short-term naming rights for tournaments and build prestigious events that like people care about. F1's the same way, right? Like, they're going to Monaco. They're not going to the Fortinet Monaco Challenge or whatever, right? Like, they're just not.
Right. Like, I think you have to think of it in terms of, say there's a scenario where you can play the majors, but you can't play on the PGA Tour ever again. There's a lifetime ban. What are you actually giving up there? If you can still play the majors, you're giving up Memorial, which is, an iconic tournament. Obviously Bay Hill, which is an iconic tournament. Riviera, which is another iconic tournament that you have Tiger's name behind it. But, that's basically, and the FedEx Cup, which I think the FedEx Cup kind of gets deemed a little bit irrelevant as well. If, a regular live event, you can make pretty much just as much, right? So the opportunity cost, I don't know how many people are going to look at that and say, hey, if I can still play the majors, which is really what your legacies depend on. The Players, that's a good point, Dan Kelly. The Players Championship, that's a pretty big one, right? I mean, the purse for the Players isn't as big as the purse for a live golf event, but that's probably the one where it's like, okay, if you can never play the Players again, how does that make you feel? Do people care?
Right. Even the FedEx Cup is just a system to pay the best players. No one cares about winning the FedEx Cup. They care about the $18 million. If it again, I go back to F1 because I think they've done such a great job, right? Like, you win the world championship. You're the world champion for the year. You are not the, MasterCard card holder of the year or whatever BS they want to sell to some big company. There is a prestige in saying that. And quite honestly, in 20 years, it might not be called the FedEx Cup. And we're going to have to all agree that Billy Horschel won the Tesla Cup, or won the, Amazon Cup. Remember when he won that? And we're going to have to act like that happened 20 years prior because we go back and we rename this stuff. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah. It's also ironic because the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund has given a ton of money to FedEx too, which is just part of that. Well, they can't really, in fairness, they can't really, a lot of these places can't choose what their investors are when they're public companies like that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think it is. I am so fascinated to see. And the fact that it hasn't come out yet is how this gets presented to us, right? How, it's tougher for us, Rick, because we're on the West Coast, right? So the time difference for an event in London doesn't really work out great for us to be able to watch a ton of it unless we want to be up in the middle of the night, right? But I'm so fascinated to see how over the next couple of days they roll out the media plan, right? They roll out how we watch this stuff, if odds are going to exist for this, if people do they want people covering it? Is there going to be media there asking players questions? Is it their own media? Is it a situation where in Russia or something, the media members work for the organizations that they're covering? We don't have answers to any of these questions. We don't.
And I guess we will, because in 6 days they're teeing off in London. And I know, I don't know if you saw this, Jerry Foltz, who was with the Golf Channel for a long time, just bounced. He went over to live. And
really?
Out of the blue, I guess he got a great offer or whatever. So I don't know if we're going to see more of that. And that's how this is going to be covered, or I don't know. I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll cover it a bunch more in the upcoming weeks, including next week.
Very quickly, you will not be making any one and done money this week, unfortunately, because your selection, Hideki Matsuyama, thought it a great idea to white out his 3-wood face. This is just the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Silly game. Yeah, I was playing golf yesterday, but I heard the Twitter freak out and all that stuff. And I guess there were pictures of it before Golf WRX posted something like this. There was even because he's playing with Reed, right? So There was the easy joke of Reed ratted him out. Yeah, it's bad luck. But who do you have again? You have Morikawa?
Yeah. He's 1 under, and he tees off this afternoon.
Okay. All right. I mean, I was very close to Xander. The closing double makes me feel a little bit better about that, because I would have been in immense pain if Xander, goes on to win, which I still hope for, I guess, because that would help my wallet in other ways. But that stinks. Yeah. I feel like I'm slowing down. I feel like all the momentum is on your side at this point.
I'm like, have you ever seen the Atlanta Braves games where the freeze races a guy and gives him a 100-foot head start? I feel like I'm the freeze trying to chase you down. I don't always win. I've lost a step over the years, but I'm chasing you down. I hope I've got enough time to do so. Yeah.
No, you've got all the momentum, and we're not going to do live, are we? We're not going to do live one and done.
Yeah, I need it. I need the $4 million up top and the 2.1 for first.
Right. Yeah.
Start adding prize purses to this thing. Cool. All right, Andy. I hope you enjoy your weekend. We'll be back at it again on Tuesday, and it's gonna be a weird mix of RBC Canadian week. There's gonna be the London stuff for live, and then there's going to be the early conversation around the US Open next week. I have a feeling is going to be it's going to be fascinating to see what happens next week.
I'm very excited. Have a great rest of your weekend, Rick.
Andy Lack, available on Twitter at ADP Lack Sports. Producer Mina does all the hard work behind the scenes. You can find me at RickRunGood. We'll see you Tuesday. Have a good one.